General P.I., my fiancé since childhood, after returning to court from a great victory, saved Princess Joning, who had accidentally fallen into the water. The royal family gave me two choices: marry Pei Lang as a concubine, or accept the royal reward, break off the engagement with Pei Lang, and choose another good husband. In my previous life, a soaking wet Pei Jingxing held me and poured out his heart, coaxing me into willingly becoming his concubine. But the princess was no pushover. Once Pei Jingxing's affection for me cooled, tormenting me was a piece of cake. Before I was even 30, I died of hunger and cold in a desolate little courtyard of the general's manor. After my rebirth, I returned to the palace banquet, where the princess fell into the water. When faced with the choice again, I broke off the engagement without hesitation. This concubine, whoever wants to be one, can be one. I am not doing it anymore anyway. Please make sure you are in a comfortable position. Our story is about to begin. Reply in the comments and let us know what city you are all reading our story from. Number Chapter 1, The Truth. Where is Wei Lang now? Don't let him be too late. This princess doesn't want to drink cold water. Hiding in the shadows, after hearing these words, I closed my eyes. The speculations from those bleak days have now finally revealed the truth before me. Pei Jingxing is truly thoughtful. After the commotion of the princess falling into the water attracted a bunch of noblewomen, entitled ladies, he appeared like a godsend and pulled her out just in time. In my last life, I hadn't left my seat and was still at the banquet, so I heard others discussing this hero saves the beauty drama. Before I could even react, Pei Jingxing had someone lead me away from the banquet. He held me soaking wet all over and promised me that no matter what, I was the one he loved the most. In the end, he didn't forget to ask me, "I know you've been well read in poetry and literature since you were a child, and the love between us is so deep, you surely wouldn't be like those vulgar women who care about the empty titles of wife and concubine. Yuntang, will you betray me?" At that time, I was stirred by his few words, my mind filled with nothing but the image of my lover. Afterwards, the empress asked me whether I was willing to marry Pei Jingxing as a concubine, or to accept a royal reward, break off the engagement with him, and choose another good husband. At that time, I firmly believed in my heart that love is stronger than gold, and replied without hesitation. A priceless treasure is easy to come by, but a loving man is hard to find. I only wish to grow old together with my dear P.I. At that time, my head was muddled. I didn't notice the ugly looks on the emperor and empress's faces, nor did I see the disdainful looks everyone at the banquet was giving me later on. Pei Jingxing used my identity as a descendant of the Xia family to smoothly take control of my father's old troops. With military power in hand, he became a red-hot military general in the court. By that time, I had lost my usefulness, and on top of that bit of affection Pei Jingxing had for me had long been exhausted over time. So for Princess Joning, who had long found me an eyesore, it was a piece of cake to torment me. If I wasn't short on food, then I was lacking clothes. Who could have thought that in the end, I would actually die of hunger and cold in this vast, flower-adorned general's manor? Chapter 2, Choice in Those Years of Destitution. I went over my life again and again, reflecting on how I had come to this point. I was born into a hereditary family of generals, and the Xi clan's line of descendants was quite thin due to wars. By the time it came to my generation, a battle over a decade ago had taken the lives of my father and older brothers, leaving only a house full of women. Me mother, heartbroken over the deaths of my father and brother, passed away early, leaving only my elderly grandmother. Before my grandmother passed away, she arranged my marriage to a young man from the P.I. family, a good friend of my father's. Since I am the only one left in the Xia family, just an orphan girl, the royal family has looked after me quite well, so I've actually had a pretty happy life here in the capital. But Princess Joning's act of snatching my marriage was too disgraceful, so even if the royal family was displeased, they had to cover for her. The royal family was willing to give me a way out, and also offered compensation. If I had any sense, I should have just accepted it, all to preserve the royal family's reputation. But I was so stupid in my last life, to actually dare to bet my own future on a man's conscience, and willingly become a concubine. Since heaven has given me another chance, I can never again walk the old path of my last life. So when I saw Pei Jingxing hand the princess over to the old maidservant, and turned to instruct a nearby palace maid about something, I silently blended into the crowd of noble ladies and young ladies who were watching the commotion. That orphan girl from the Shi family just has bad luck. Her whole family is gone. And now the husband who is about to make it big is about to be taken from her too. The way I see it, the princess falling into the water isn't that simple. Shh! This is the palace. Don't speak nonsense. Eavesdropping on their discussion, I suddenly realized, so it turns out, in my past life, everyone had seen that there was something fishy about this falling into the water incident. Only I was stupid and slow. Just then, a young noble lady beside me nudged me. What do you think? Do you also think that person did it on purpose, Xiantang? For the last 3 words, because the person speaking suddenly recognized me, and was too surprised. She couldn't help but raise her voice a bit. The crowd, who had been whispering, was suddenly startled, their gazes drawn over. Our eyes met, and both sides felt a bit awkward. Fortunately, the other 2 people involved had already left. When I and the group of people returned to our seats in a strange atmosphere, the Emperor and Empress didn't look too pleased. Princess Joning had already changed her clothes and was kneeling in the center with a soaking wet Pei Jingxing, perhaps because he hadn't found me earlier upon noticing my arrival. Pei Jingxing hurriedly looked at me, seemingly trying to send a meaningful glance. But now when I see him, I just think of how he plotted against me and worked with the princess to take my life, and I just feel like throwing up. Upon seeing my arrival, the Empress's expression softened slightly. She beckoned me over, offered a few words of comfort, and then, just as in my last life, let me choose. I quickly put on a look of terror and apprehension and knelt down, but the words that came out of my mouth were completely different from my last life. Princess Joning and General Pi are a match made in heaven. This subject daughter does not wish to ruin someone's fated marriage. I hope your Majesty and Her Majesty will allow this subject daughter to withdraw from the engagement and bring this loving couple together. Hearing my answer, the expressions of the Emperor and Empress on the thrones cleared up a bit. They immediately announced the dissolution of my engagement with Pei Jingxing and bestowed upon me the title of Commandery Princess, as well as many rewards of gold, silver, and jewels. At the same time, they also decreed a marriage for Zhaoning and Pei Jingxing, and the 2 would be wed 3 months later. This wedding date was a bit rushed for people of their status, but the northern frontier isn't peaceful right now, and Pei Jingxing couldn't stay long in the capital, so the wedding was arranged a little hastily. At the same time, I am afraid it was also meant as a warning to the 2 of them. Number. Chapter 3. Reckoning when I returned to my residence, the breath I had been holding finally let out, staring at the dazzling array of rewards and the imperial edict granting the title. I reflected deeply, so it turns out, in my past life, for the sake of a man and some empty fame, what I gave up was all of this. No wonder. So thinking of this, I quickly had someone call for butler Uncle Liu. He was one of father's old subordinates who retired early due to an injury, and then became the butler in our residence. He is one of us, so I didn't hide anything from him and told him everything that happened at the palace banquet from beginning to end. After hearing this, Uncle Liu was so angry he gritted his teeth. That despicable person from the Pei family must have seen that General Shi has passed away and resorted to such a dirty trick to climb the social ladder. If the eldest young master were still alive, how could the imperial court possibly place him in such an important position? That is right, if it weren't for the imperial court having no one else to use, how could the emperor and empress have let Pei Jingxing off so easily? But in this lifetime, I have no intention of having anything to do with this person ever again. So I said to Uncle Liu, "Uncle Liu, when I was leaving my seat, I saw a strange look in Pei Jingxing's eyes as he watched me. Please arrange for people to keep a diligent night watch just in case." "Are you saying he wants to pull the same old trick and ruin your reputation, miss?" I feigned a helpless shake of my head. "I hope I am just overthinking things." Uncle Liu struck his palm with his fist, saying angrily, "I've heard people say that the Pei family has been using your marriage contract to win over the Shi family's old subordinates at the border. I am afraid that young whelp from the Pei family has tasted the benefits and won't let you go so easily. I'll go arrange for men right now." After saying that, he rushed off in a flurry, seeing his high-spirited appearance. I was suddenly reminded of my past life when I stubbornly insisted on being Pei Jingxing's concubine, and how he looked like he aged 10 years in that instant. I couldn't help but feel even more guilty. In this life, I absolutely cannot let down the people who truly care for me. A night of peaceful sleep. In the morning, while I was having breakfast in the flower hall, Uncle Liu came in smiling. Just as you predicted, young miss. A thief broke into the manor around midnight last night, and we beat him until he fled in disarray. Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment, and quickly asked Uncle Liu with concern. I heard that person is highly skilled in martial arts. Were any of the uncles in the manor injured? Uncle Liu waved his hand proudly. Don't worry, us old geezers haven't let our skills get rusty. It is just that brat will have to walk with a limp for a while. Pei Jingxing is extremely concerned with his image, single-mindedly wanting to be a dashing young general in fine clothes on a fiery steed. If that is really the case, I am afraid he'll have to lie low for a while. That won't do. If I don't get to appreciate his pathetic appearance, I'll be quite regretful. On second thought, I said to Uncle Liu, I hear that since returning to the capital, Pei Jingxing has been trying to win over the Zhao family. Uncle Liu, help me send an invitation to the second Miss Zhao. Just say that I am hosting a banquet at Tianxianglu at noon, and would like to invite her for a chat. Uncle Liu nodded in agreement and said to me, Young miss, you should indeed interact more with the families of the master's old friends. Number Chapter 4. Tianxianglu. At Tianxianglu, at noon. Zhao Qingyue frowned when she saw me. Aren't you always with that bunch of young ladies from noble families reciting those sappy poems? Why are you suddenly looking for a boor like me who just plays with spears and staffs? I was left speechless by her. In my past life, because Pei Jingxing liked talented and sentimental women, I tried hard to befriend the young ladies from those scholarly families, and we even looked down on Zhao Qingyu together for being vulgar. But thinking about it now, it was truly laughable. Later, we women who prided ourselves on being noble and refined all withered away in the rear courtyards in different ways. But the Zhao family threw in their lot with Princess Chang'an, and Zhao Qingyu went to the frontiers to kill enemies, becoming the first female general in this dynasty. Truly majestic indeed. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but purse my lips and smiled at her. Don't be anxious. I was just worried you were bored to death in your residence, and invited you to watch a good show. Seeing this, Zhao Qingye shivered all over, and said to me, Why don't you just curse me instead? The way you are smiling is giving me goosebumps. Just then, there was a knock on the door of the private room, and Pei Jingxing's voice sounded, Yun, Tang, I know you are in here. I am begging you. Please see me just once. The voice was a gentleness he was deliberately faking. In my past life, I would have found it heart-wrenchingly tender to hear, but now, I just wanted to puke. I saw Zhao Qingyue rolling her eyes, smiled and patted her, signaling for her and her maid to wait here, then personally turned and went past the screen to open the door. As soon as Pei Jingxing saw me, he couldn't wait to come up and hug me. I quickly took a step back to avoid him. Seeing this, he looked at me with a hurt look. Yun Tang, just because I am going to marry the princess, you are going to be this distant with me. Hearing this, I desperately suppressed the urge to punch him in the face and said coldly, General Pei, please have some self-respect. What did you call me? He clutched his chest, saying in disbelief, Didn't you once say your only wish in this life was to marry me? Are you going to betray me now? So it turns out, I still didn't understand him enough in my past life. The man I loved was actually such a greedy scoundrel who wanted to control power and fame by having beautiful wives and lovely concubines. Pei Jingxing, you are about to marry a princess, so how am I supposed to not betray you? Do I have to willingly become your number concubine to satisfy you? Pei Jingxing immediately turned the tables and accused, Ji Yuntang is an empty title like wife or concubine so important to you. Where does that leave the affection between us? Just then, an angry roar from Zhao Qingyue came from behind the screen. Damn it, Shi Yuntang, I can't take this anymore. As the words fell, the screen was violently kicked down. Zhao Qingye stepped forward and, catching Pei Jingxing off guard, knocked them down with one kick and pinned them to the ground with their foot. Shi Yuntang, aren't you going to do something? She stared at me, her gaze hostile. I shuddered under her gaze, and struck by a sudden inspiration, I took a few steps forward, landed 2 smack-slap slaps on Pei Jingxing's face, then gave her a fawning smile. Yuntang, why is second Miss Zhao here? Pei Jingxing had palm prints still on his face, Yet the first thing he did when he opened his mouth was to question me. How ridiculous. Hearing this, Zhao Qingyue sneered, kicked the person out the door, and shouted in her loudest voice. Beat the lecher. This floor of Tianshanglu was all private rooms, and the patrons were mostly powerful and influential figures from the capital. Hearing such a big commotion outside, most of them sent their servants out to find out what was going on. The nosy ones even stuck their own heads out to look. Pei Jingxing isn't a dumb person. It is just that he has always looked down on women, and now having been repeatedly struck down by a woman, he is just a bit out of it. Reminded by the young servant beside him at this moment, he immediately noticed his own embarrassing predicament, and hurriedly covered the slap mark on his face. As he was leaving, he didn't forget to look at me with a condemning gaze and say, "Yuntang, do you really want to be that heartless and faithless person?" After he finished speaking, he hurriedly limped away. Zhao Qingyu was left behind, looking at me with mocking eyes. Even though she didn't say anything, for some reason, I felt like she had cursed some very dirty words. "Yuntang, seems like getting to eat at your banquet isn't easy, huh?" She said it in a passive-aggressive tone, obviously referring to me using her to deal with Pei Jingxing. I hadn't intended to hide it from her in the first place, but who would have thought that person would come so fast? I didn't get a chance to explain it to her beforehand. This is indeed my fault. I quickly apologized and presented the gift I had prepared in advance. I've long heard your spearmanship is no less than the men of the family, so I am gifting you this long spear from my father's treasured collection. She, however, didn't keep holding it against me, but instead picked it up with a single hand, hefted it a couple of times, and said to me, "You are forgiven." With that said, she directly took her people and left. Staring at her retreating figure, I couldn't help but marvel, truly the most dashing woman in this capital number. Chapter 5. Rumors. The rumor that Pei Jingxing, this prospective imperial son-in-law, still had feelings for me, his ex-fiancée, and even committed the lecherous act of publicly harassing me in a restaurant, became known to everyone in the capital in just one afternoon. Of course, as things got distorted when passed around, the rumors became more and more ridiculous. By evening, there were already more than 10 different versions of the story. The most exaggerated thing they said is that Jingxing is dissatisfied with the royally bestowed marriage, and intends to also marry me, his former fiancée, to slap the royal family in the face. I also arranged for people to get in there and add fuel to the fire. The most important thing is to turn things around in time when rumors that are disadvantageous to me appear. As the highest authority in the capital, I would naturally hear these words as well. Of course, with power and interests at stake, I didn't expect Pei Jingxing to give up easily. I just wanted to delay him for a while first. I know, this would certainly make me loathed by those in power, but this is just the first step in obstructing Pei Jingxing. The next day, Pei Jingxing was impeached by the censors. It is said the emperor didn't scold him, just told him he didn't need to attend court recently, and to focus on preparing for the wedding ceremony at home. Every word and action of those in power is a signal. Although the court still needed to use Pei Jingxing this time, it couldn't tolerate him acting so arrogantly. Just when I thought he would at least behave for a while, a maid brought a letter to me in the evening. I looked at the words, "For Yuntang's eyes only" on the envelope, got angry right away, and had people seize that maid and anyone who had handled the letter. After there was no one else in the room, I opened it, and saw only 2 words written on it: "Wait for me." Yo, still some lingering feelings, huh? Just as the familiar female voice faded, I looked over, and it was Zhao Qingyu, dressed in men's clothing. She was sitting brazenly on my room's beam, teasing me. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, and casually crumpled the letter in my hand and tossed it aside. "There is a main door you won't use. You just have to be a gentleman on the beams. What is wrong with you?" She jumped down nimbly, took a few steps forward, and picked up a lock of my hair, lowering her head to sniff it. For this kind of business of stealing fragrance and pilfering jade, of course one cannot use the main door. That slick and sly appearance. She was the spitting image of a profligate son of a rich family. I, who was originally in a foul mood, couldn't help but laugh out loud seeing her like this. "Young lady, I was very satisfied with the play you invited me to see yesterday. How about I treat you to a show today as well?" I'd heard in my previous life that Zhao Qingyu is the type who refuses to suffer a loss. This means she is not satisfied with my thank you gift from that day, and wants to return the favor. This is as it should be. Thinking of this, I stopped smiling and nodded in agreement. Seeing me like this, she scratched her head, a bit confused, but still had me change into clothes convenient for going out, and led me number out of the manor. I just didn't expect that she'd actually take me to Princess Zhao Ning's manor, to be precise. It was the princess manor the Empress prepared for Zhao Ning, just waiting for her to get married so she could move in. In her past life, to show off her deep love for Pei Jingxing, she never lived there, always living in the Pei family's general manor. Zhao Qingyue brought me along to climb in as if she were strolling through her own backyard, expertly made a bunch of twists and turns and pulled me to squat down under a window. Dear Pei, you've been wronged. Since that little number refuses a toast, then I'll make her drink a forfeit. Even though Yuntang is insensible, I still see her as my sister. I hope the princess will go easy on her for my sake. Don't worry, your dear sister won't even lose a single hair, dear P. When the time comes, you just need to lie down and enjoy yourself. How are you going to thank me? Pei Jingxing, on the other hand, responded with his actions. In a short while, sounds unbearable to the ear came from inside the room. Hearing such a sordid matter made me feel uncomfortable all over. I wanted to leave, but I saw Zhao Qingyue next to me listening with great relish. I couldn't help but nudge her. She sneakily leaned close to my ear and whispered, "It seems your ex-fiancé is pretty good in bed. Listen to how loud Zhoning is screaming." Pei Jingxing is good in bed. I recalled my past life. At the beginning, he was still a bit gentle and considerate, but later, he'd just lie in bed like a lord, waiting for me to serve him. Pa, what am I thinking about this for? It is all the fault of that indecent Zhao Qingyue. Number Chapter 6. Banquet at the princess's manor to frame a woman and ruin her reputation. There are usually only a few methods falling into the water, being drugged, or swapping personal items. A few days later, our manor received an invitation from Princess Zhoning, saying that she had newly acquired several pots of top-grade orchids, and was holding a banquet at her future princess's manor to invite everyone to appreciate them together. On the day of the banquet, I didn't arrive early, but I wasn't late either. Who knew that the carriage would be stuck in traffic, 2 streets away from the princess's manor? He lifted the carriage curtain and saw a vast procession of carriages and horses in front and behind, moving forward slowly. Zhoning probably invited all the noble and official families in the capital. Her intentions are not good. At the banquet, I pretended to eat a few bites of food, but secretly spat it all out in private. A young maidservant tried to spill wine on me, but I dodged it. A noble lady invited me to stroll through the garden, and I refused her too. Halfway through the banquet, Zhoning's gaze toward me grew increasingly hostile. I pretended not to notice. Seeing that time was running out, she unexpectedly stood right up and said to me, "Miss Shi, I have a few words for you. Can we step aside to talk?" I sighed to myself. The powerful always have more privilege to be willful. Princess Zhoning is the emperor and empress's own daughter, doted on and spoiled as she grew up. If I really let her scheme succeed today, the emperor and empress would only scold her for being willful. But I have no choice. I even have to put on a meek, flattered look and leave my seat with her. As I turned, my eyes accidentally met those of Zhao Qingyue, who was sitting beside Grand Princess Chang'an. I quickly winked at her. Princess Zhoning had always looked down on me, not even willing to put on an act, and directly brought me into a side room and pushed me in. She smiled brightly at Pei Jingxing's personal attendant. "You better watch carefully. Your young master is feeling unwell and resting here for a bit." And Miss Shi, unable to forget her old feelings, came running to visit him. That servant boy nodded eagerly and quickly shut the door tight. Hearing the sounds outside the door fade away, I slowly paced to the bedside, only to see Pei Jingxing with red eyes, lying weakly on the bed and looking at me. This is a drug for themselves, and the plan is to frame me. Just as I was about to take another 2 steps to get a clearer look, a faint fragrance assailed my nose, and I immediately felt dizzy. Rammed the door open for this one. Zhao Ning, leading a group of noblewomen, stormed over aggressively, still shouting curses. "You audacious Shi Yun Tang! You told this princess you weren't feeling well. This princess had no idea where you were resting." Before Zhao Ning could finish her words, she was interrupted by Grand Princess Chang'an, who was striding over quickly. As the group approached, Zhao Ning looked disbelievingly at Zhao Qingyue and me behind Princess Chang'an. Hearing the suggestive sounds from inside the room, she immediately had a bad feeling. Just as she was about to tell them to stop, it was too late. The door was kicked down onto the ground. Young master, please spare me, the man's shrill, pained voice pleaded for mercy endlessly, and the expressions on the faces of the crowd outside the door were all different. It was a kinswoman from among the titled ladies who stepped forward and said, "The two princesses are unmarried, it wouldn't be good to sully their eyes," and was about to go inside with a few matrons. It was only then that Zhao Ning reacted, shoving her away and rushing into the room with her people. Barely 2 breaths later, her scream rang out from inside the room. Afterward, she was seen being helped out, her face deathly pale, squatting by the side, and continuously dry heaving. The clansman looked at the situation, sighed, and led his men into the room. Not long after, a hastily dressed Peijing Xing came out of the room, while his personal attendant was dragged out, his clothes disheveled. Seeing this, Zhao Ning, supported by her maid, pointed at him and shouted sternly, "Kill him! Quick! Drag him down and beat him to death with a staff! Young master, spare my life. Young master, for the sake of me following you for so many years, spare me." Peijing Xing walked towards Zhao Ning as if he wanted to say something. Zhao Ning immediately straightened up, pointed at his nose and cursed loudly. "Peijing Xing, if you dare to plead for him, you can forget about being the prince consort." After saying that, she left in a huff. This banquet also ended hastily. It could be called starting with a bang and ending with a whimper. Number, Chapter 7, Princess Chang'an. After following Princess Chang'an out and getting into her carriage, Zhao Qingyu instantly leaned against me, as if she had no bones. "Not bad, Shi Yuntang. This time you managed to turn the tables on them all by yourself. Quick, tell me how you did it." I carefully looked at Princess Chang'an, and seeing that her expression was calm, showing no sign of disgust, only then did I recount what had happened. "It is simple, really. Those two must have planned to drug both me and Peijing Xing, but the main dose was for Peijing Xing, to create the false impression that I shamelessly drugged the prospective prince consort and had an illicit affair in the princess's residence. But I was too familiar with Peijing Xing's servant boy. He is extremely greedy for money and lecherous. In my previous life after my downfall, he forcibly took the valuable items from my room and abused my maidservant. Zhao Ning had him stay behind, so he would definitely peek. So when I smelled the strange fragrance, I quickly held my breath, pretended to be drugged, fell on the ground and feigned unconsciousness. Peijing Xing was lying on the bed unable to move, and this servant boy, afraid he couldn't handle the princess's instructions, couldn't resist and came in to check. The moment he came in, he got hit by the soft tendon powder I had already prepared and fell to the ground. And I, in turn, played the good guy, found the drug they had hidden in the bed curtains, stuffed it into both their mouths, then put both of them onto the bed and went out the door. Zhao Ning also arranged for maids to guard outside the courtyard, but today when I went out, I specially brought a maid with good martial arts skills, and she easily took care of that person after finding them. When Zhao Qingyue came to find me, she happened to find me in a good mood, squatting by the pond at the princess's manor watching the fish. She didn't say a word and just brought me to Princess Chang'an's side. After I finished explaining what happened, Princess Chang'an suddenly spoke. "Well done, but leaving Peijing Xing aside for now, Zhao Ning is not exactly good-natured. Have you thought about how to deal with her? In my past life, the one who emerged from this imperial palace was not the little emperor who inherited the throne, nor the one who won over Peijing Xing and a series of other powerful officials and military generals to put the little emperor on the throne, the empress, and even less the Peijing Xing who would stop at nothing to vie for power and profit, but rather this quiet one, who was nonetheless appointed as the regent grand princess by an imperial edict before the emperor's death, the Princess Chang'an. In her past life, she quickly seized control of the imperial court after the emperor died, and every time Peijing Xing mentioned her, he would hate her to the point of gritting his teeth. So I dared not be slow in answering her question. I rose and knelt in the cramped carriage and replied to her, "I dare not hide anything from your highness. This humble servant plans to claim illness and not go out after returning to my manor this time, and to adopt an heir for my parents, and have him join the army to fulfill the last wishes of my father and brother." After speaking, I lifted my gaze to Princess Chang'an and said firmly, "If your highness has need, the entire Shi family is willing to serve you like a dog or a horse." Princess Chang'an held her teacup, tapped it gently, and quietly asked me, "What if the heir I want is you?" I was shocked. "Princess Chang'an meant for me too," I said hesitantly. "It is not that I am unwilling. It is just that I don't have any martial arts skills to protect myself. I am afraid I'd die a violent death before I could even serve the princess. Don't worry, if one heir is gone, then I'll just get another one." Her words were nonchalant. A jolt went through me, and I immediately kowtowed to state my position. This humble servant is willing to serve the princess. Just then, Zhao Qingyu reached out and pulled me up, saying to Princess Chang'an, "All right, if you want her, just say so. Why scare her?" Princess Chang'an shot her a sidelong glance and said nothing. Number Chapter 8, Army Camp. I do what I say. One day, a rumor spread through the capital that the young lady of the Xia residence's old illness had relapsed, and she wouldn't live long. They also invited many elders from the Zhao residence to bear witness, and adopted an heir on behalf of her parents. It was heard that this son was quite extraordinary, with hopes of inheriting the Xia family's legacy. These things were talked about with great relish. In contrast, the matter of the prospective prince consort fooling around with men at the banquet, held by the princess, was kept tightly under wraps by those who attended that day. No one mentioned it. According to Zhao Qingyu, after Zhoning returned to the palace, she was punished with confinement to reflect on her misdeeds. The palace, however, had not a single word to say about Pei Jingxing. This was not a good sign for him. I heard that not only the old subordinates of our Xi family, but also the military generals who had some contact with him before, have also cut off ties with him after this incident. Perhaps it was all the frustrating matters, one after another, that made him lose his composure, so much so that he actually brought men to break into my Xi residence at night. I heard that after Pei Jingxing broke in, he led a group of men straight to my boudoir, but when he pushed open the door, he saw no one inside. Instead, he was caught like a turtle in a jar by Uncle Liu and his men, and finally left having suffered considerable losses. At that time, I had already, as promised, followed Zhao Qingyu to a military camp full of female soldiers, to train together with them. The training was arduous, especially for someone like me who had never endured hardship. When I first entered the camp, many people mocked me for being a pampered young lady, unable to even lift the training long saber more than a few times. But after having lived through that terrible lifetime, I cherished any opportunity for self-improvement all the more. Finally, after countless tears and sweat, and not knowing how many scars I'd accumulated, I also caught up with everyone else's pace. At this time, Zhao Qingyu asked me to return to the capital. Pei Jingxing and Zhoning's wedding date had arrived, and Zhoning specifically requested my presence to celebrate with them, which the Empress agreed to, knowing full well that they meant no good. I could only play it by ear. When that day came, I had someone put sickly makeup on me. Plus, the past 3 months had been difficult, and although my body was much stronger, I had indeed gotten thinner. Wearing the wide-sleeved dresses popular among noblewomen in the capital, I looked even more slender. In Zhao Qingyu's words, I looked like I didn't have much time left. These past few months, we'd been together all day, every day. Whenever I couldn't keep up with everyone else, she would give me special training, so we were very familiar with each other. Today, she came to Xi Manor to pick me up. After getting out of the carriage, I leaned on her, determined to stay by her side all day. When the noblewomen and ladies in waiting around saw me, their expressions were quite complex. Some showed sympathy, others disdain. No one came up to talk to me, which meant I got some peace and quiet. After the wedding ceremony and the bride and groom were sent to the bridal chamber, suddenly a maid came looking for me, saying that an elder from the Pei family wanted to see me. This was actually an acquaintance, the head maid by Madame Pei's side. In my previous life, she liked to look down her nose at me. "I am not going," I said coldly, knowing they had ill intentions. I'd have to be crazy to go off on my own. That maid was quite clever. Her eyes immediately reddened as she knelt before me. "Miss Xi, our master treats you like her own daughter. Are you not even willing to see her?" Using moral high ground to coerce others into submission. Is that a Pei family tradition? How does everyone know how to do it? I was just about to refuse again when Zhao Qingyu quietly squeezed my hand and said to her, "Get up." knowing Yuntang is unwell and still forcing her to walk around. The P Manor's way of treating guests is really something else. Having long had a tacit understanding with her, I immediately coughed a few times, my voice as faint as a thread, saying, "Since it is Mother Pei's wish, it is naturally not good to keep an elder waiting. I'll have to trouble you, big sister Zhao." After saying that, Zhao Qingyue helped me up and urged the maid to lead the way. She looked at us, wanting to say something but holding back, and in the end, under everyone's gaze, she didn't say the words for me to go by myself. Mother Pei and Grandmother Pei both held my hands for a few pleasantries, then told Zhao Qingyue they wanted to have a few private words with me. Zhao Qingyue complied graciously, leaving me in the room to face the two of them. "Yuntang, your grandmother and I have always treated you as one of our own. Who could have thought that fate would play such a cruel trick on us now?" Grandmother Pei was also at the side, wiping her tears. "Grandmother, seeing you two like this, I am truly upset. Jingxing will be returning to the northern frontier soon, and the princess will definitely stay in the capital. Yuntang, if you are interested, why don't you just go with Jingxing? No one will restrain you there. You can be a happy couple in that northern frontier. This family is getting more and more ridiculous. Before, they wanted to scheme to make me a concubine, and now they're just straight up egging me on to elope. Is it because they think my Xia family has no elders? So they think I don't understand worldly matters, and am easy to trick." At this moment, Pei Jingxing, dressed in a bright red wedding robe, suddenly ran out from behind the screen in the hall, came forward and grabbed my hand. "Yuntang, if you are willing, we'll perform the wedding ceremony right now. No matter what others say, in my heart, you are my one and only wife. No way, even if Zhao Qingyue wants to watch a show, I can't stand it anymore." I punched him in the eye. With this sickly and weak appearance of mine, no one was on guard. He was hit squarely by me, and instantly had a black and blue eye. I am no longer that pampered young lady from before. Even though my kung fu isn't as good as Pei Jingxing's, this strength is the real deal. Zhao Qingyue, who had been secretly observing, got my signal and immediately rushed in to fight Pei Jingxing, who was about to attack me. And as for me, I had long been eyeing the two old money-grubbing hags of the Pei family. Seeing they wanted to call for help, I went forward, stuffed the pastries from the table into their mouths, and my hands didn't stop. Smack, smack, slapping both of their faces a few times. After slapping them, I felt like something was missing. So I ran behind the screen where Pei Jingxing came out to take a look, and sure enough, Zhao Ning, dressed in a bright red wedding robe, opened her mouth to shout, so I stuffed her mouth with a pastry just the same, and slapped her a few times. After doing all this, I looked at the three people choking on pastries with their eyes rolling back, and Pei Jingxing, who was being beaten down by Zhao Qingyue, and quickly called Zhao Qingyue to leave. She didn't hesitate either. She dragged me out the door and then carried me on her shoulder, using her martial arts skills to quickly run back to the banquet hall. When we reappeared in everyone's sight, my face was covered in tears, looking like I'd suffered a huge injustice and was about to faint from crying at any moment. Zhao Qingyue, on the other hand, was full of anger, and finally shouted loudly, "This is too much. My Zhao family scorns to be associated with them." After saying that, she pulled me and left the PI residence, leaving everyone to look at each other in dismay, all speculating what terrible thing the PI family had done to me. Chapter 9. Audience with the Emperor. After Zhao Qingyue and I left the PI residence, we went straight to Princess Chang'an's place. After explaining the situation in a few words, she didn't hesitate either, and took us directly into the palace. After the Emperor and Empress dismissed everyone, I began to cry and complain. The Pei family is too much. After marrying the princess, he still wants to force me to go with him to the northern frontier, so he can have the bliss of having two wives. If Pei Jingxing were able to control the old subordinates of the Xia family, he would be too powerful for a military general, and the emperor would of course not sit idly by, but for the empress who is pulling him onto her boat, she would naturally be happy to see it happen. She was even the one who cleaned up after Pei Jiaoning before. The emperor and empress are both well aware of what the PI family is after. This could have been handled anyway in private, but now that I've brought it out into the open, it looks rather bad. Especially with the Zhao family's daughter and Princess Chang'an involved, it is clear this won't end well. The emperor then sent someone to summon the PI family. Just then, a palace eunuch coincidentally announced that the PI family was requesting an audience, and the emperor nodded and granted it. Just then, Grandmother Pei, Mother Pei, and Princess Zhongning, the three of them, a mother-in-law and her daughters-in-law, entered the door with palm prints on their faces, and in a disheveled state shouting for the emperor to uphold justice. And Pei Jingxing was even worse, his face all bruised and cut, and that wedding robe of his was also completely tattered. One look at them, and it was clear that after we left, they had gone hard on themselves again. When they saw me kneeling in the courtyard, they immediately flew into a rage, and on the spot accused me of being dissatisfied with the princess and Pei Jingxing's marriage, and of getting into a fight with the Pei family. Seeing this, I secretly struck my own chest, immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and said to them with my breath as faint as a thread, "I am just a weak and sickly woman who doesn't have long to live. How could I possibly injure your PI family members so badly? You people are simply going too far." Having said that, he lay on the ground, breathing out more than in, looking as if he was about to pass away. Princess Chang'an immediately sent for the imperial physician. They again directed their accusations at Zhao Qingyu, who blinked and said aggrievedly, "I was just looking after the young ladies a bit. I didn't expect to be slandered like this. I am a lady of the inner chambers. Where would I get the strength to beat General Pi into such a state?" Zhao was so angry her eyes were about to shoot fire. She didn't even see the empress giving her a look, pointing at us and cursing loudly. The imperial physician arrived very quickly. After feeding me a pill and administering a few needles, he bowed to the emperor and empress. "Miss Xia has long been suffering from a serious illness and didn't have long to live. Now that a fit of rage has attacked her heart, I am afraid her days are numbered." Once this was said, the emperor immediately snorted coldly. I for one didn't know General Pei's skills had gotten this rusty in the capital. People in general are very prejudiced against women, and the emperor was no exception. Of course he didn't believe that the entire PI family was actually beaten up by just me and Zhao Qingye. He just thought the PI family's behavior was graceless. He gave them a scolding, then told Pei Jingxing to leave the capital and return to the northern frontier as soon as possible, and also docked Zhongning's salary and forbade her from entering the palace without an edict. To appease me, he gave my Xia family's heir the position of a little general, and had him go serve under General Zhao in the northern frontier. General Zhao is Zhao Qingyu's dad. After leaving the palace, Zhao Qingyu nudged me. "You get promoted pretty fast, huh? Becoming a general, and you haven't even been to the battlefield yet." I cupped my fist at her. "I'll have to ask elder sister Zhao to look after me well in the future." Princess Chang'an found the two of us too rowdy and kicked us off the carriage. "We'll immediately return to the camp and step up our training. We're going to the battlefield soon. Improving our strength is the most important thing." Number Chapter 10. The northern frontier. Zhao Qingyu also led us as we struck camp and rushed towards the northern frontier, even catching mountain bandits along the way for practice. Many people couldn't get used to killing for the first time, and some even lost their lives. But no one complained. Everyone was clear that the paths left for women in this world are not many. We galloped all the way, and surprisingly arrived at the northern frontier even earlier than Pei Jingxing. General Zhao assigned us to the battalion. This all-female army repeatedly achieved brilliant feats on the battlefield, and Zhao Qingyu's and my ranks also kept rising. And because of my identity as the heir of the Xia family, I received much support from my Xia family's old subordinates in the northern frontier. Gradually, I gained an even higher reputation. The word in the army is that I am brave and skilled in battle, with unparalleled strategies, possessing much of old General Xi's style, and more suited than that treacherous Jingxing who married the princess to be the future commander of this northern border army. So when Zhao Qingyu and I first entered the military tent to discuss military affairs, Jingxing's hand slipped, and he knocked over a teacup. "What are you doing here?" Having just lost his composure, Jingxing seemed to have thought of something and quickly pretended as if nothing had happened. Although the many generals in the tent found it strange, they didn't say anything. The military situation was urgent. As winter approached, the Hu people of the northern border, who aren't good at farming, mostly rely on plundering the common people of our dynasty to get by. A scout sent word that an allied army formed by two tribes is currently attacking in this direction. Pei Jingxing advocated for focusing on defense, while Zhao Qingyu and I believed we should hit the other side hard in one go. We advocated for attacking. The current commander of the northern frontier is General Zhao. He only has 3 daughters, and before I came to the northern frontier, everyone believed that Pei Jingxing, who was to become the son-in-law of the Shi family, would take over the northern frontier. In the past, the camp was mostly centered around Pei Jingxing, but this time with my presence in the tent, Pei Jingxing's voice was surprisingly suppressed. General Zhao made the final decision for me and Zhao Qingye to lead the troops as the vanguard. With Pei Jingxing as our backup, everyone came out of the tent, and Pei Jingxing, without another word, dragged me to a secluded spot. Yun Tang, although you didn't say it, I didn't expect you to have silently followed me all the way here. This is a military camp, not a game for you little girls. Don't go against me just to throw a tantrum, okay? I fell silent upon hearing his words. Could he really have heard nothing about my military merits, my accomplishments? Just because I am a woman, he can wishfully assume that I chased him to the northern frontier because of some childish romance. When you don't get along, even half a sentence is too much. I caught him off guard, kicked him in his lower parts, and quickly ran away. In the following days, he came to pester me again, so I just grabbed Zhao Qingyu and we taught him a good lesson. As he left, his face grim, he threatened me. Jian Tang, think carefully about my proposal. This is the crime of deceiving the emperor. I pursed my lips. According to my memories from my past life, that emperor is about to die soon. So what am I afraid of? Number chapter, when 2 armies are at war, a single thing cannot secure the slightest tactical advantage. I didn't expect Pei Jingxing would dare to defy a military order, and as our reinforcements failed to show up at the designated time. Zhao Qingyu and I have always cooperated with a tacit understanding. She charges on the front lines, I command from the central army. After sensing something was wrong, even though it looked like victory was in our grasp, I immediately sent a message for everyone to retreat. Our army being delayed doesn't mean the other side will also be delayed, especially since the Hu people are skilled at mounted archery, and especially since their cavalry can take on 10. So when I found that the number of the enemy's cavalry didn't match what the scouts reported, I made sure to be on my guard. At that moment, I decisively ordered a retreat deep into the grasslands. That was an escape route I had been studying for a long time. Not until we had completely vanished from the battlefield did Jingxing belatedly arrive with his army. He looked at the brutal battlefield and said to the adjutant general beside him, General Shi is young and impetuous, eager for grand achievements, and actually overestimated his own strength to provoke the enemy, leading to the entire army being wiped out. What a pity for those loyal and valiant soldiers. But he didn't know. This was the cavalry that the Hu people had ambushed long ago. Seeing our main force approaching, they directly launched a surprise attack. Pei Jingxing had thought the main force of the Hu people was already chasing us, but he didn't see this coming and was caught completely off guard. He wasn't a complete idiot, he reacted in time. But the cavalry was brave and fierce, and by then it was too late, so he could only fight while retreating, escaping back into the city with heavy casualties. He pushed all the blame for this mistake onto me and Zhao Qingye, thinking we had already died under the enemy's iron hooves. Meanwhile, Zhao Qingyu and I took advantage of the fact that Pei Jingxing was drawing most of the Hu people's forces to raid the Hu people's main camp and directly captured a large number of Hu soldiers. Among them was even the Hu chieftain's own uncle, the great general of this army. While the city was still steeped in the grim atmosphere of defeat, we returned, laden with spoils of war and prisoners. When General Zhao saw us, he excitedly ordered the city gates opened. After staring at Zhao Qingye and sizing her up for a few moments, he heavily patted my shoulder a few times. Good. The Xie family truly has a worthy successor. I rubbed my shoulder that ached from being slapped, and my eyes met with the grim-faced Pei Jingxing, anger immediately flaring up in my heart. Why did General Pei disobey a military order? If it weren't for him, why would we have suffered so many more casualties? This man is simply not fit to be a general. The faces of the crowd, who were immersed in the joy of victory, immediately turned cold. Quite a few people in our army came back alive, so Pei Jingxing's explanation didn't hold water at all, but he was a general personally appointed by the emperor. So General Zhao couldn't just take him into custody directly, and he was just placed under house arrest to await judgment. But in the evening, The person I sent to watch him came over to report, saying that he had secretly taken a troop of soldiers and was heading towards the capital. I found Zhao Qingyue and said to her, "Get ready, it is time for us to go back." Chapter 12, Upheaval in the Capital. Peijing Xing received a secret letter from the Empress. The Emperor was critically ill, telling him to lead troops into the capital to ensure her son could ascend the throne smoothly. In my past life, he relied on me to win over the old subordinates of the Xia family, and successfully took control of the northern frontier. He unequivocally supported the young prince, so naturally the young prince's ascension to the throne went smoothly. Now everything he had built up in the northern frontier has been destroyed. If he wants to guarantee his future meteoric rise, what could be more reliable right now than the merit of backing a new emperor? So he didn't hesitate, and traveled day and night towards the capital. The emperor had many sons, and had not appointed a crown prince. Now that he was critically ill, they were all waiting inside the imperial city, waiting for the outcome to be settled. Although the empress's son was the legitimate heir, at only 8 years old, he was at a disadvantage compared to the other princes who had already established their power in court. So, when this side got the definite word from the imperial physician that the emperor wouldn't live past dawn, the empress directly sent a message to Peijing Xing, who was secretly stationed outside the capital city, telling him to enter the city. Inside the city, everyone feared for their own safety, and the leader of the imperial guards defending the city had long been taken care of by the empress. Peijing Xing entered the imperial city without any obstruction. He looked at the trembling princes, his methods much more brutal than in his last life, and just cut them down with a swing of his blade. Finally, he brought his men and the empress, who was holding the little prince's hand, into the emperor's bedchamber. "Your Majesty, it is time to issue the edict of abdication," he said while wiping his blade and staring at the old emperor, his expression one of indescribable satisfaction. The old emperor looked at him and roared, "You rebellious minister and traitor! Don't you dare imagine that I will." Before he could finish speaking, Peijing Xing beheaded him with a single slash. He laughed and said, "Without you, this edict can still be issued." After saying that, he was about to take the empress and the little prince to write the imperial edict. Just then, the grand eldest Princess Chang'an, leading all the civil and military officials, appeared before the hall. "Rebellious minister and traitor, how dare you commit regicide? Your crime is punishable by death," Peijing Xing retorted. "Nonsense, I was clearly worried about the nation's peril." Entered the capital under a secret edict to install the 9th prince as the new emperor. Some upright ministers couldn't stand his arrogant manner and berated him one after another. He drew his saber and said to the crowd, "All generals, listen to my command. If anyone dares to insult this general again, they will be killed without mercy. I'd like to see who dares." Princess Chang'an questioned forcefully, and her majestic appearance made Peijing Xing involuntarily take a step back. This made him feel like he'd lost face, and he sternly rebuked, "The imperial court is a solemn place. What business does a woman like you have here? Hurry up and leave." "Is that so? Does General P really think that women are useless in this imperial court?" I walked into the hall step by step from outside, and stood behind Princess Chang'an. "We subjects are late to the rescue." Princess Chang'an waved her hand. At this moment, the sound of clashing weapons came from outside the hall. Not long after, the battle ceased. Zhao Qingyue, covered in blood, walked in carrying a long spear, and stood behind Princess Chang'an with me, one on her left and one on her right. Peijing Xing sensed something was wrong, immediately picked up the little prince, held a blade to his neck, and threatened the crowd. "This is the emperor's only remaining male heir. Without him, this court will be leaderless." The empress, in a panic, tried to snatch her son back, but was kicked away by Peijing Xing, crashing into a pillar and fainting. Seeing him distracted, I rushed forward. "How dare you? Let go of the little prince, and we will let you leave." However, the blade in my hand struck the back of his blade. The little prince instantly fell silent, and Zhao Qingyue, who has always had a tacit understanding with me, ran Peijing Xing through with a spear. The two of them collapsed to the ground together, lifeless. I and Zhao Qingyue knelt before Princess Chang'an to plead for punishment. "This subordinate is guilty for failing to rescue the little prince from this traitor's demonic clutches. Please, princess, deliver your punishment." In front of the hall, the civil and military officials were stunned into silence by this scene. Then my firm and forceful voice was heard. "The country cannot go a single day without a ruler, please, princess. Ascend the throne soon to stabilize the court." Before those old conservatives in the court could even open their mouths to object, more than half of the officials knelt down and said to Princess Chang'an, "The country cannot go a single day without a ruler, please, princess. Ascend the throne soon to stabilize the court. Long live our emperor. Long live, long live, long live." As the crowd cheered, more and more people knelt, leaving only some old diehards yelling, "The princess is usurping the throne." But it doesn't matter. I turned my head, and Zhao Qingyu and I smiled at each other. Number epilogue. After the empress ascended the throne, she first had the empress executed, then deposed Zhoning, demoting her to a commoner, and throwing her out to guard the imperial tombs. I heard that life there is very hard, and she'll have to spend the rest of her life like that. And the PI family, because of Beijing Xing, had their home ransacked and clan exterminated, and there were no more PI people in the capital city. Afterwards, she asked me what reward I wanted, and I only asked for Beijing Xing's corpse. She cursed me for being crazy, saying I didn't want so many valuable things, and instead went for a jinxed thing. Actually, I also thought he was a jinx, but just in case, I still had to personally dispose of him completely before I could be at ease. The Empress is actually pretty nice. She gave me the position of the great general of the northern frontier, with Zhao Qingyu as my deputy. The original General Zhao returned to the capital to live out his retirement. Then she instructed Zhao Qingyu to keep an eye on me, not to let me do any sick things, and if my brain was full of shit to beat it out of me promptly. Seriously, what did they think I was going to do? I took Beijing Xing's corpse, found many Taoist priests and monks to take turns performing rituals, to scatter his soul and completely eliminate any possibility of him reincarnating. I definitely don't want him to have a rebirth in some life that I don't know about. After all that was done, I set his corpse on fire, completely grinding his bones to dust. The speculations from those desolate days have now finally revealed the truth before me. It took me all this time to realize, this is a case of love turning into hate for you. You really hold a grudge, not even letting him go after he is dead. I rolled my eyes at her. Then you'd better remember to treat me well in the future, or else watch out. I might hold a grudge against you. She waved her hand. All right. Now that you are done handling it, hurry back to the capital. The Empress has prepared a gift for you. What she said left me completely baffled. When I returned to the capital, I discovered that her so-called gift was 4 handsome men, each with a different style. The Empress was worried that because you've seen so few men, you'd be tricked by a single crooked neck tree, so she gifted you a few to let you see more of the world. After she finished, she suddenly said to me in a sleazy way, "As your best friend, sharing half with me isn't asking too much, right?" After hearing that, I kicked her out with one kick. "I've already given you half of the gifted gold, silver, and jewels, so don't push your luck. If you want some, get the Empress to gift you your own, and stop eyeing mine." The end.